Welcome to AI Innovators. We're a new startup with a big dream to demystify AI for everyone, from the curious individual to the global businesses. But here's the deal. We need you to make this dream a reality. So we're opening up our doors to interns, and no, that does not mean you have to be young to join us. So what do we value? We value your passion for AI and the unique skills that you can bring to the table. Are you a whiz at video editing with AI? Maybe you're the social media guru that we've been searching for. Or perhaps you've got a knack for creating compelling blogs and articles using AI and your brain. And if you're always on the hunt for the latest AI, then you're probably that researcher we need. But there's more. If you've got the skill to craft engaging training videos, we want to hear from you. We're also on the lookout for podcasters to create captivating shows. Do you know someone who'd be a fantastic guest for the show? Let us know. Or maybe you've got the AI expertise and some humor to help co-host with us. We're all ears right now, so bring us your suggestions and leave them down below in the comments. Join us at this pivotal starting point, because together we'll not only shape the future of AI for hundreds of thousands of people, but we'll also build a community where every voice matters, because we want to hear your opinion on AI. So what do you say? Ready to innovate, collaborate, and leave a mark? Click the link below and contact us, and let's get this AI movement rolling with AI Innovators. There's great power in community, so if you know someone who'd like to be a part of what we're doing, well, share the love, share the link. All right, now enjoy the AI Innovator Show. Welcome to the show. Today, my guest is Brit Woodall from Gainesville, Florida. And Britt is a tech executive that has worked in and around the startup world for over 20 years. And he has been a journeyman working in roles from product management to business development and marketing. Currently, Britt, right now, he serves as director of special projects for Woodall. I'm going to have you explain that in a minute, Britt. What is Woodall? But I'm just happy to have him on as the first guest for the AI Innovators. So welcome, Brit Woodall. How you doing, sir?
Thank you, Gil. It's an honor to be here, man.
I'm glad you agreed to coming on here as the first guest of AI Innovators and kind of launch this off. Really appreciate you doing that. And just, I think you hold a unique position to be able to share some thoughts on the AI and where we're at with it today and what's going on. So thank you for coming on here.
Absolutely.
So first question, why don't you explain Woodall just a little bit so we understand that a little bit better?
So my current role, I have just a really tremendous opportunity. I work with a company that specializes in technology around intellectual property for video. And just real specifically, our clients are major motion picture studios, all the sports leagues, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, even overseas. We have a huge presence. And so a lot of our technology is around identifying, helping to track where all their content's consumed, and then how to help them better monetize their content.
Okay. That's a question for like down the road in a sense, because I know as AI is coming on board with more and more video platforms that it's going to seem to get really messy in that area, I'm guessing. Would that be correct?
Yes, there's a lot of what we do is around pretty established legal precedents and things. And so we're crossing the Rubicon, as you can imagine, with deepfake video and different things like that, where there's a lot of new questions, AI generated content, where the legal, who is creating the content can even be a question. And so it's a fascinating time.
Yeah, definitely. Before we get too deep, how did you first become interested in AI, and what drives your passion in this field today?
I have an interesting background. I've been in and around. I've really had a wonderful career in ways where I've been in a lot of startups that unfortunately maybe not have been as meteoric in rise as they were great experiences. Yeah. But I've really had neat opportunities, but I spent a time in other technologies, actually spent a good bit of time around blockchain, which is a name people may recognize, and then also around AR, VR, MR, augmented reality, virtual reality, and applications like that. And one of the things that my career I've learned and leading up to video, I spent a good bit of time working in digital rights management and audio in early 2000 with a company that right alongside iTunes, we were working with the music labels to get licensing to distribute online after Napster. You may remember that.
Yeah.
And because of my time in that and then going on to other technology companies beyond that period, I ultimately was reunited with actually a friend that I had when I was in college, where I am today. I moved back to for work with him. We had met there, who's now the CEO of Vobal, and there we're focusing on a parallel track where I was in audio, they were in video. And of course, nobody's downloading files as much anymore. It's all streaming and it's all changed many times over. But my role here has been around. I currently spend a lot of my time being an ambassador for Vobal, interfacing the university in Florida, in not only where I'm at, but also the state I'm in terms of representing our company, doing a public-private partnership with like the engineering school and other schools within the university around innovating some of these areas and getting to seeing where there may be resources for us to partner with them, which is become more and more common. And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit.
How would you describe AI and currently how it's being integrated into the various departments at the University of Florida and maybe some other universities?
I think that it is certainly, we know it's been popularized. I've talked previously and offline just about all the consumer facing applications of the search of ChatGPT and these other ones that are really doing a good job of promoting some of the capabilities of AI. I think from a historical standpoint, a lot of this is just the continued evolution of what's been around as machine learning in the past. And I think what we're seeing now is you're seeing a lot of money come in terms of people developing applications, whether it's I can only speak to within my context in the university system and we have a unique thing here at the university I'm at. I can share a little bit more specifics on that, but where even right before COVID, there's been a huge emphasis on artificial intelligence. And in the university system I'm in, that is the reason our company's here partnering with, and I'm at the University of Florida, which I'm fine if people know that.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and dive into that, because I am curious how that connection between Vobal and the university how is it connected?
Vobal is a company has been headquartered on the West Coast in California since 2006, basically in Silicon Valley. And long story short, the NVIDIA is a company many would be familiar with. Mm-hmm. They do graphic processing units for video cards. Many people who are into gaming or other would be familiar with NVIDIA. They're quite a leader in a lot of processing, as if you're really into animation, and I've been in work with companies very closely, that's what their business is, that a lot of the processing power for running these very rich animated renderings, they began to build these workstations that ran primarily off the video processors. And that became what fueled a lot of the VR and AR and the ability to create these very rich experiences. They have grown on to now they do a lot of processing around AI is done. So NVIDIA is very interested in that. The founder is a guy named Chris Malachowski, and he has a relationship with my CEO at Vobel, and I do not know Chris personally, but my understand the story is that our being here is because of Chris Malachowski's interest in AI and his investment, really giving to UF very large sums of money. And I even left some articles for you to see where you can see just some of the gifts he's made. But what's come out of it is the directed gifts have basically been part of the University of Florida committing to not only change their curriculum, but every school, and there's 16 colleges within the university system I'm in, from engineering to every liberal arts, business, you go down to underwater basket weaving, you have these colleges, every one of them, they brought in 144 faculty specifically with expertise in AI, everywhere from English all the way to engineering to healthcare. They are this gift has not only done that, but it's brought transformation to the curriculum where they are now every single college student is required to at least have a few foundational courses in AI, not necessarily to be technical, but both for technical and non-technical majors. And the course includes just beginning to understand the future of AI and the purpose in really all parts of life. But then also they have a whole separate one on ethics, which I know is a point you want to get to. There's a lot under the hood of that.
Yeah, I just find it fascinating, and I feel it's you used the term when we were just talking in text back and forth, but the race between even the universities to get set up so they can be ahead of the game. And so I find it a pretty good move on behalf of Florida University to, if I understand correctly, have an AI expert assigned to each area of the school. Like you said, the engineering, even to the English department, especially the English department with Chat GPT. There's so many things that are going to be changed with AI that if people aren't getting on board now and really trying to understand it, they're probably going to be left in the dust in the next year or two. What other significance do you see in the fact, and did I get that right, that they're assigning an AI expert?
It's not even just assigning. I think there's 16 colleges and they brought in 144 full professors that are already experts in, say, the areas, and it's not just one, or just many departments will have multiple of these full professors who are in physics or in their area, but they are an AI. They have a very strong AI component that warrants their being here. I think the other piece of this, to answer your question, is part of this gift. The University of Florida has committed to then roll out foundational AI learning to all the public schools in Florida. And so this gift with the university, with these faculty and these things, have come up with kind of rudimentary AI, all under the auspices and in very honest, sincere ways. They're trying to address and prepare. College ultimately is to prepare the workforce of the future, right? In whatever way. And so they're seeing future work as having an AI component and are trying to make people coming up through the public school system, and the University of Florida is our public university, to begin to prepare the next generation for the reality that they believe is, what their vision is.
Yeah. So the buzz phrase I hear a lot these days right now is that the first phase of the disruption is not going to be AI taking over the world, but it's going to be people using AI who are taking up the positions of people who aren't really integrating AI into what they're doing. So with that in mind, I'd be curious, what are the biggest challenges that you think are going to be faced as far as AI being implemented responsibly through the different disciplines?
I think there's going to be low hanging fruit and then the real hard problems to solve. And I think you're going to see a lot of people's nature is just trying to make their life easier, and whatever job they're doing, they're trying to make it easier. So I think you're going to see a lot of that in terms of automating existing, we used to call it paving the cow path. The current thing I'm doing, I want to try to, I think the hard stuff's going to be the systemic change of where you're changing the actual path of what you're doing. And I know that's a real broad metaphor, but I think there are a lot of things where, obviously with like Chat GPT, just the simplest example, I talk with professors every day, and it's very interesting because they all now are well aware of students using them to write papers. And so they're all have come up with ways to, they can tell people writing papers that come in with the same mistakes or the same phrasing. So they're beginning to, and then some professors are even getting ahead of it and say, okay, I want you to use ChatGPT in creating problems and things that still make the students think and have to be original and come up with. And so it's going to be interesting from that's just a little example. But I think where I come in business, you're already having teams doing a lot of heavy lifting in terms of data analytics, taking data sets, taking things, trying to derive meaning from all their customers' data. Are there things in here that we've never thought to look for, but we don't have the manpower to go through all the customer records for 20 years and find patterns of correlation that things that we just don't have the manpower that maybe with AI we can begin to tackle and investigate some things that we just before. So there are positive possibilities like that I think we'll be getting into. That's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Now, what you're going to have going forward is people building whole businesses and processes, not using the old system, but building a whole new system, building whole new workflows that leverage AI in ways we couldn't have imagined before just because it wasn't possible.
On that note, I've literally in the last, 3 weeks, I've shifted gears. And for me, I haven't been in business for probably a good 10 years. And before that, I was a serial entrepreneur. I loved creating businesses, and I had created 15 businesses and 5 corporations over a 17-year period of time. Shifting back in from where I've been back into business again, I'm launching 2 new businesses, and there's no way I could have done it at the pace that I've done it without having the AI utilities that are there. Because I would have taken probably at least 1 or 2 assistants to come in and help me out the way I've been able to use ChatGPT and some other AI sources. And yeah, it's definitely going to change the landscape, but it's also going to take people like myself and others who, are not necessarily experts in all these different areas, and have the AI come in and actually fill in the gap to a pretty good extent. So it's enabled me to actually go out and hire another person to fill in a different gap that is assisting me to assist with the AI, if that makes sense. I need more assistance in assisting the AI to do what I needed to do.
I think the downside is, but still, this is very conceptual. And in the disclaimer for your listeners is I have had roles. I am not a coder. I am not a hardcore programmer in the traditional sense. I'm very familiar with a lot of those things and methodologies and projects related with that, but I've always been on the consumer facing side or working with the actual functionality and things of products that I've been a part of in my past. And my role now is really becoming familiar and trying to research and investigate what is happening at the kind of tip of the spear of new AI applications specific as it regards to the university and in different types of opportunities for us as a company to possibly do research with. And people are probably familiar with, there's a lot of public-private partnerships with universities that have been going on for a long time in healthcare, like biotechnology, within pharmaceuticals. You see a lot of research for years going on with universities around maybe coming up with new medicines or things like that. Mm-hmm. But there's also happening in other areas of technology, and what we're working on is trying to find ways within the university to possibly do partnerships where we there's a couple benefits for our company. One is obviously recruiting bright students, people who being able to maybe get on to long-term research around artificial intelligence that may benefit us. It could be in terms of innovation, new processes for us, new products for us. And so a lot of what I'm doing is understanding, trying to be familiar with what, at least within academics, what's happening and at this time.
Yeah. And I just wanted to go back to, I'm using all this AI, the different platforms. And one of them I think is becoming fairly popular is perplexity.ai. It's a search engine that uses Google, but it goes out and finds the different websites and articles and puts them together. But I would say, as a word of caution, at least right now, and probably for quite a bit longer, that you really got to double check the work of AI, because it makes stuff up. It really does make stuff up at times. And you got to be careful that you proof everything you're doing, because it's not arrived yet to where it is perfect by any way, shape, or form. It looks like you want to say something. Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say I'm proud of you for just working at it and experimenting with it. And I think a lot of the customer-facing applications now are just a tremendous promotion of the potential for what can come out of this. I think there are definite realities of it's, even if it's just a modified type of search where it's not just bringing back an answer, but maybe it's bringing back ideas or compiling things is just kind of a starting point for you to understand a subject or begin to work on something. There's some value to that. I think the reality is it's a little bit of that, whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. And the quality of the information that's being used, it's curating existing content out there somewhere in a way that's can be helpful.
Right.
But there's a place it's not at the place yet, like you said, where you got to be really careful to understand where that data came from, especially if accuracy or those type of things. So if there's a lot of noise in data, you're going to have an issue with noise. In fact, if anything, it'll amplify if there are biases, or most biases are unintentional, by the way. It's not necessarily people's intentionally trying to, it's just, it's going to reflect the nature of the people who program the AI, and maybe they're trying to solve for a problem and it was good at their problem, but when you're using it for something else, you get kind of wonky answers. Or you may be, it's always going to be this thing, and I think we're going to ultimately get to the part of the conversation you and I have had is people have these forward-looking concerns about the science fiction things, which we may or may not turn out like that, but there's this concern about where this is going. And I think the kind of leaning into that a little bit on this topic, there's a lot of the place people are looking to AI is they're wanting original content. Like when you and I go online to look at something, or we're wanting to find something, we're wanting to have true, truthful, accurate, or even original thoughts on something. And I think that's where you just have to be real careful in our expectations. And certainly if you're depending on that to provide someone else, in your credibility is based on it, you ought to do some double checking.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Triple checking.
But it has been so powerful because, let me back up just a little bit, because in using it at the extent that I've been using it, I definitely see how if someone just completely goes down that road of using AI for everything, you can begin to get rusty in your own creativity and your own ability to do things as a human being. I can see that. I kind of sense it a little bit in myself, just, by the amount that I've used it. So that is one area. So I have my time where I'm writing a book where that is all my own creativity as I'm bringing that out. So that's good for me. But one caution I would have for everybody is just, if you're using it to a large extent, we really need to be human. We need to step out of it occasionally and be human and be creative, do life, and not get stuck in having it do everything for you, because that's where it's trying to go. Having robots to come into your house to start doing your chores and all this stuff. It's crazy sounding, but it's a reality that people are shooting for.
I'm a fan of technology. I know you are, and I think it's there's a thing that we've talked about, just going on the philosophical side, and this is all my opinion, and I encourage everyone never to even believe me, but this is my thought on. I think it really is a double-edged sword, and for those who play sports or use any kind of racket or like a club, like in golf, we tease in golf that the problem's not the driver, it's the driver, right? It's the problem's one hitting the golf ball. And I think there's a little bit of, with technology, it's always a double-edged sword. What makes it great also can cut you. And there's a little bit of this thing where, and we also lose sight of it. It's an amplification of men's hearts, where, the creators of these things are many times noble, and they're trying to solve a problem. And then someone will take that and apply it to something else. And you got to just understand that it's sometime in the future, AI may be able to do things and fool us that we know it's not AI, and it be very much a good actor, if you will.
Yeah.
It can mimic people and things and animals and have some type of, could maybe really convince us. But the reality is, for the current reality and for a while to come, it really is just going to amplify the intent of mankind, or the creators. And a lot of it in the industrial commercial side of it, where I come from, it's literally just trying to solve problems that they can monetize. And so I don't see that really changing. I think it's just going to begin to focus on problems that AI is really good on. It's going to be the low-hanging fruit. And then we'll see some interesting other things come out of it. And I'm not minimizing concerns that, like Elon Musk, and we hear, and those guys are super smart that are talking about that stuff, and they do know what they're talking about. But I think for me, I still have this belief. It's a lot of things. The debate around guns, or the debate around things, is it the shooter or is it the gun, or is it the people's availability to have it that causes? You can begin to look at AI like that, and how it shapes up. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I like Mo Goodall, I believe, is was the chief business officer of Google for a season, and he's now left that position. But I feel like he's got a good handle on where all this is going, and that his perspective is that we're likely to go through a dystopia. We can go ahead and move in. I want to shift over to the ethics and the alignment and so forth of AI, whether it's going to be for us or against us. But the bottom line is, what he says is, we're now in a parenting position. All of humanity basically is now in a parenting position of AI, because they've already let the genie out of the bottle, so to speak, and this AI is out there collecting information off of the internet. Now, there's no live sentient AI out there at this point, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the fact that AI has been made public, open source, open AI. It's been made public to where just about anybody can use it. And in that process, some have created other platforms for it to run on, which allow it to even think for itself to some degree and begin to duplicate itself to some degree. So there's all this going on. And if it's going out to the internet and picking up on social media, we all know that social media is pretty negative for the most part. That may be a pessimistic view of it. There's definitely those portions where there different people are just out there to get numbers, and unfortunately, with humanity, drama draws the numbers, and so they use that. And so, whatever's out there on the internet, the AI is going to pick up on that. And it's just like two parents that are parenting a child. The child is going to pick up and begin to mimic the values of the mother and father. And so I see that. And again, Mo Godot is teaching or sharing that we're parenting it right now. And so what we're putting out there on the internet is what it's picking up and it's going to begin to mimic. So there's that aspect of it, but there's also just like you were saying, there's people out there using AI to solve different problems. And no doubt, in fact, I know for it's already been published, it's already been made a podcast on it's called Worm GPT. And so they've taken Chat GPT and made a hacker's version of it, which is, in my opinion, is horrible. I don't know how or if they can even shut it down. So anyway, just saying all that just to see if you got anything to say on that. I noticed your camera had froze up for a little bit, so I don't know if you heard everything.
I heard everything. I think this thing about ethics is probably what we were the heart of this.
Yeah.
A little bit, and I'll say two short things on it. One, I think the university system I'm in, and I sent you some information on this, Gil, and you may want to put links however you want to, but some meaningful information. There's this Rome's call for AI ethics is a pretty significant. I don't know what you want to call it. It's like this one of these agreements that basically there are a lot of people are subscribing to that have institutions that are really focusing on AI, and it's not. It is very interesting that it's from Rome and all that, and that can for a lot of people is just is a question mark. But on its face, a lot of it is trying to point out these areas, and they have three main areas. One's in education, one's in these different areas, and gets into all kind of things that are buzzwords that are super lightning rods about equity, even the tenets of what you and I, what we call right and wrong and doing good, all those things they've broken out into what their intent is that we don't want AI to be developed in a direction that's going to be bad for mankind. Now, what that means is you really get into the granular detail of these type of treaties. But the university that I say my university, I went there. I don't work for the university, but we partner with the university. They are subscribed to this, and then it goes deeper than that. Part of the required curriculum for every student, they have two AI classes. One's a general overview for their area, and the other one is on ethics, which is derived from this Rome document that anybody can go see.
I believe I heard that Elon Musk signed that. It comes in the form of a letter or an agreement, if I understand correctly. But I believe Elon Musk has signed that. A lot of the top people in this industry have signed off on that. They understand the risks. And I know even Elon Musk and I think some of the others are even open encouraging government regulations on this developing AI. And A lot of us cringe at that. And yet, what I heard Elon pointing out was that generally the government doesn't step in until something's gone really wrong. The Food and Drug Administration. It's like most of these things we hear and we're like, ew, we don't want a lot to do with that. We don't like them because of the restrictions they put on us.
You're exactly right.
Yeah, but
No, yeah, you're right on. It's what do we, and I think the, and not to get sidetracked on that too much, but I think that there's a lot of this in my role of what I'm doing. I'm talking with people, and there's a lot of really incredible things going on in this, most of which is not within academia. Make that straight.
yeah.
I think most of academia and is on the forefront is my university is, and the incredible commitment they have to it. They're pretty out in the front, but there's the most advanced stuff in this is not happening in academia. A lot of academia exists to present to their constituents, hey, this is where you need to come to learn your trade or the latest and greatest, or have your, whether it's at a graduate level, there's very competitive for the top research universities or whatever field you're in. There's a whole ecosystem. But when it comes to innovation, they do have innovation. I'm not saying they don't, but by and large, a lot of the real breakthrough applications happen outside and then end up in the university once they're develop enough momentum. I think we're seeing some things, and I can give some examples of some AI that have come out of the university.
Yeah.
But I think in some of these areas, especially when it comes to ethics, and then like where we are in intellectual property, where you're talking about people's intellectual property, you're totally reliant on established case law and very baked understandings of how to mitigate your damages. If someone's stealing your property, you can go down to and having it, there's some legal remedy where you can get a court to defend you, and the police will protect you. Within intellectual property, there's some precedent there, but with AI, we're going out using that as an example to go back to this within this whole paradigm of what is right and wrong, and we're looking to legislative oversight and regulatory protections that we definitely, whatever anybody's opinion is, we're out into a place that there's not a lot of precedent for it.
The idea with bringing in the government regulation, if something goes wrong, what most of these leaders are pointing out is that if it gets to that point to where something's gone wrong with AI, they're saying it's probably going to be too late again to reel that back, because it's not just now a race between universities or corporations, but it's a race between the governments. It's like the new arms race is over AI. And if China were to develop an AI that begins to reach beyond what they're able to control, you can almost be guaranteed some of the values that they've programmed into the AI, which would not value human rights and human freedom as much as it might in the Western world. So there's all kinds of things that are going on. So let's go ahead and jump to the end result, which we honestly, we're speculating at the best. But what do you think with along the line of, I guess they call it alignment. Okay. So they call it alignment. We want to try to align AI so that as it begins to do its own thing, that it has our human interest in mind and is not just like, oh, those humans, they're destroying the earth, or it's in my way, I want to do something and just squash us. Is it going to become something like that? Or some are putting out there the idea and the hope that there would come this utopia where AI just takes care of us so well and so beautifully that it just is this utopia. Where are you at with any and all of that?
Yes, that's a great question. I think I'm not trying to be. I think I want to believe the best,
Yeah.
but I think there's just it's a little bit of a. It's like trying to, within my own natural self, guess the future, and I'm there's just it's just hard to anticipate where it's going to go. I think some things could go real poorly. I think some things could go great. I think it'll be. I think there's this question that I have about. I think there are a lot of things of people choosing things, and people done brilliant jobs getting us to use like mobile phones and getting us to subscribe to social media things that we enjoy. And I say that also those very things can be problematic, and we can. I watch too much YouTube, for instance. I need to probably cut back on a lot of things, but at some point, people have to subscribe to these things, and there's a place where we can imagine a future where it gets out of control, and we've got robot dogs coming up and making us stay in our garage and all this kind of thing. I think that could happen, or you could have people just choosing to do good things with it,
Yeah.
finding this thing helps me, and I'm going to use it to help what I need to do, and then you just I think there's going to be a weird kind of evolution of this where people are going to bet the farm on certain things.
I would love to hear just some closing thoughts and ideas that you think are really important that as we're moving and going down this road. And I was just going to add that I feel like there will be a level of dystopia. And when I say that on a 100% being totally bad and AI eliminates humanity, dial that down to maybe 10 to 25% dystopia where people using AI begin to push out other people who are not using AI. And so there's a job displacement factor that is probably going to come up in the next 1 to 3 years, where a lot of people are going to get pushed out who have not learned to engage with AI. That would be one level of dystopia that I think we're going to see pretty quickly. Like I said, in the next 1 to 3 years. Would you agree with that?
I think you're going to see a lot of it's going to be a lot of traditional industries that are going to be absolutely affected. I think you're going to see a lot of again, the time frames are so hard to put on this, and I saying it, but I can think of my son is in accounting in doing in the audit world. I can only imagine very established things like that. The legal field's already gone through a lot, but I can imagine even more. It's going to become those things. I think it's going to affect a lot of things. I think it's also going to have it's a double-edged sword. It's going to cause a lot of challenges to some industries, but it's also going to be the net result's going to be a better product
Yeah.
or
No,
a better service.
and I just off the top of my head, I think of, I've said this for years now, that probably in another 5, 10, maybe 15 years, it'll very likely be illegal to drive a car manually because I think it'll be proven that the AI driven cars are much safer. Now, I know a lot of people that are with the technology are just going to poo poo that whole idea, but I'm pretty sure that's coming. And then we know that, we don't know, but it's already being said pretty clearly that the AI can take all this information from the medical world and synthesize it down in just seconds or minutes, and you can plug in the symptoms of somebody having a heart attack or whatever, and the AI is going to be able to bring out options almost immediately to where a doctor is going to be limited in that area. And besides that, There's over 7,000 new medical journal releases, peer-reviewed articles, so forth, that are coming out every single day. And the question would be, how many of those has your doctor read today? The AI can assimilate this stuff pretty much immediately. And so I can see, again, in maybe 5 years or so, somewhere in that time frame, give or take a couple years, that it may be considered malpractice for a doctor to make a diagnosis on a patient without at least consulting the AI to see what it would have to say. Something along those lines. I could see that happening pretty quickly.
I, I think this is something I've talked about before, but is on this point. I think, part of this it brings up, this is a divisive, you were talking about divisive ideas of people won't have cars or things. I'm going to step out there. And I think there's also, when you get into people's idea of man and God and these things about,
Yeah.
or the purpose of man, is there no God and our purpose is just we're evolved from mud? Or is there a God that designed us, and what we attribute to our consciousness, our soul, and the aspects of what many people just think is our brain? We start getting into the faculties that make up someone's intelligence. I'm backing into the word artificial intelligence. You start getting into, I think a lot of people's ideas of what this will become is, instead of people insert intelligence, they mean their consciousness. We're going to have this sentient being that intelligence represents sentience, and this artificial sentience will become a alternative for people. And I think there's some aspects that you're mentioning, like memory, recall, where these things the technology is incredible and will ultimately be much better than us at curating large amounts of data and being able to help us sort through huge amounts of whatever it is that we need to go through. But if there is a God and his design is for us, is that our highest calling? Or is it to be creative and bring forth things that it's not the curation and collating of a million things of data to bring back an answer? It's, what if that answer is not out there? Who's going to be the one that's going to creatively? And you go back and I think I've even heard you talk about this, Gil. You look at the history of great inventors. How many of them, it wasn't through some deep research, it was a moment of inspiration, taking a nap on a Sunday afternoon, that they received something that changed the world. And it's not happened just once, it's happened multiple times. And there's something about this that when we get to that answer, the fear of the future, I think we may have some of our tasks that we thought was the purpose of our soul, about being able to keep everything straight in our house and where all our tools are and all that. We, in society, keeping everything, that may change, but I think there's something about God's design, if you believe there's a God, that man is still called to bring forth original thought, original solutions, original ideas. That it's just my humble opinion that AI will never be able to supplant that.
Yeah.
It may be able to organize and collate and find and help us take data we've already had and find new things that we don't have the time to read. We couldn't get a million armies to read. And it can do that kind of high volume stuff. Right. And I may be wrong. As that's another disclaimer. I may be totally, everybody may say, Britt, you're full of, but I'm hopeful there's going to be positive things.
And like I said, I'm not a fear monger at all. I'm looking for the positive things, but I want to be cautious. I think we need to be cautious and just understand that this AI, it has the potential to go sideways and cause some problems, but I'm with you. I believe there's a higher power that is ultimately in charge and that things will ultimately work out for the best. I don't know what that looks like, if that even includes AI or computing or anything when we get to that place. But it definitely, I'm definitely leaning toward the idea that things are going to be beautiful, but we may have to go through some muck to get there. So, but Britt, I appreciate you being on here. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful time, and the time flew by for me. I'm looking forward to many more shows in the future, and just really, I want to help people understand AI and be able to use it for the benefit of humanity, that we are able to rise to a new level in our understanding and in our operation. And this has been a thing. So since you touched on it about God, I'm a big person. I believe in identity. And I believe when we understand who we are, we're able to just be, and we can be at rest. And if the AI were to come to a point where it really does take care of us, a lot of people have really been afraid, Christians, they're like, what will we do then? And I'm like, wow, you get to rest and learn what it really means to be human and engage with that realm. It's powerful stuff. I love it. So anyway.
That's great, Gil.
Sir, been really good.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored, and look forward to see your next shows coming up.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody watching. Encourage you to share this and get the word out. And we will be here building up the resources for AI innovators. All right. Bless you all. Take care. Bye-bye. Hey, just a quick reminder to everyone. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Do you have more to add to what we shared today? Drop us your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. We genuinely value your input. So if you know of other AI innovators that should be on the show, connect us with them. Go to our website and contact us directly. Together, we can make a difference.